Good morning, everyone. So today we have a little bit of a different format. I will be interviewing myself, which sounds bizarre, but the gal that I had scheduled for today couldn't make it, which is totally fine. So she rescheduled for later this year. And yeah, so I just thought, instead of trying to scramble and find a guest for today, I would just kind of tell you a bit about me, who I am, and what my story is. So as I go along, if you have any questions, type them in the comments, say hi, let me know you're here. I'm actually going to, I'm going to jump on Facebook quick on my phone so I can see who's here. Hi, Diane, because on my screen on my laptop where I'm actually recording, get rid of that. Where I'm actually recording, I can't see people as they're jumping on. Good morning. So, yay. We got some people jumping on now. So if you have any questions, go ahead and hop on. Thank you for sharing. Yes, please share if you can as well. So I'm going to put my little banner. So it's me interviewing me. Hi, Rhonda. So happy to have people joining. Good morning, Barb. Some of my favorites peoples are all here already. So I'm going to jump into it just like I do with the guests. Exactly what I do, I'm going to follow the same format, talking about challenges I've run into, what my mindset shift was, and where I found success after the challenges. So my story goes way, way, way back, and well, I'm not going to get into, hi, Ashley, a lot of detail about my prior marriage simply because it was toxic and abusive, but I'm way past kind of, I don't want to say dwelling on it because I went through a period of that, of course, but I'm past even the forgiveness part of that relationship. So from the time I was 16 until I was 31, I was in a pretty toxic relationship. We got married when I was 18, had my first daughter at 21, my second daughter at 24, and then I finally left when I was 31. So what I do want to focus on, though, as far as the challenges go in my life, is the results of that relationship and what it did to me personally, where I found the challenges. So when you're in a very kind of controlling, toxic relationship where someone's very jealous and they kind of have you under their thumb all the time, you really lose who you are, and you learn to pick your battles. And so fighting for who you are as a person becomes very minor on the list of things you want to fight for. So you tend to become a mold into somebody else's ideal person, I guess I would say. So after I left that relationship, I had to do a lot of kind of soul searching, if you will. There were a lot of things that I was doing where I always felt rushed. Okay, so for example, during the marriage, whenever I went somewhere, I felt like I was always on a clock. If I was a little bit later than maybe he thought I should be, I would kind of get in trouble. There'd be a fight, there'd be accusations. I couldn't leave for work early. There were all these different kind of control tactics. And even to this day, even years and years later, I still kind of have some of that back in my mind, even though my current husband is literally nothing like that. I find I was rushing to the grocery store and home. I was rushing because I thought I was going to be late for literally nothing. So it kind of sticks with you. It's almost like a PTSD where you are constantly feeling you're going to be in trouble, like I had a rush, and worrying what other people were going to think, how I looked, how I dressed, what I said, what my beliefs were. And some of that still kind of holds true. And maybe that's why I don't really vocalize my personal feelings and thoughts, like especially on social media, because I'm afraid of that confrontation. And so during this transition period, when I was trying to figure out who I was, trying to push past all the boundaries that had been set on me, the interesting thing was back then, so we're talking 2006 and before, my aspirations were actually, and some people are surprised by this, were to be a songwriter. So ever since I was very young, I would consider myself a poet and a lyricist. I never wrote the music, but I wrote the lyrics, and I had actually won several lyric writing contests. And it was something I was never really, I guess, allowed to pursue back then. It drew too much attention to me, and even entering contests, if it ran like $20 to enter a contest, I was wasting my money, and, I shouldn't be doing those things. So after leaving that relationship and figuring out more about who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be, I found I created like a writer's block. So when I go back and read lyrics and poetry that I had wrote prior to 2006, oh my God, it was so dark and depressing. It was always about just sadness. And, when I go back and read it, it was this dark undertone in everything I wrote. There was this sadness about it. And so when I started to make revelations about, who I was becoming, and I was starting to find baby steps to happiness, I couldn't write anymore. I was like, I don't know how to write happy. I don't know how to write, happiness. I was, and I almost fell into, and this is going to sound strange, but I almost had fallen into somewhat of a depression because I couldn't write. Thanks, Lacey. Yeah, this was, a part of my journey many don't hear. So I thought every time I attempted to write something happy, it felt corny and it felt fake. And it was because I didn't know how to just truly be happy. Like I didn't know how to embrace that part of myself. And so, like I said, I fell into this kind of depression. And then I wanted to write about that depression. Even that didn't seem to work out. So I was in this weird box I put myself in where I wasn't the old me, but I wasn't quite a new me yet. So I was in this little box trying to figure it out and kind of stuck. And so I got into this place where this is when MySpace was a big thing. Okay. I remember getting on MySpace and just diving into that. Remember, if you remember or MySpace, you could put you could change your profile, you could put music on your profile. And that was my way of expressing myself. I could put music every day to kind of showcase how I was feeling. And so that was the way I was expressing myself, and kind of meeting new people on MySpace of all places, because I felt very, very alone. And one day I was feeling pretty good. And so I started to write, and I surprised myself. I actually wrote something that I felt was pretty upbeat. And oh, yeah, you love making your profile too. Yeah. So I was feeling kind of brave, and I thought, I'm gonna post some of my poetry and my lyrics and just, see if I get some feedback. And so I did that. And I think there was like a notes section back then, and that's where I posted it at. I didn't put it as a profile or a status, I guess is the word. So I posted it in notes. So I began to post in the notes section on MySpace some of the lyrics that I had been writing in poetry. And one day, out of the blue, this was like January of 2007, I get this message from this guy who I have no clue who he is. His name is Kenny Starr. And he says, hey, I'm a producer. I would love to put some music to your lyrics. I think you are an amazing lyricist and writer, And so I'm looking at this like, first, who the hell is this guy? And why is he messaging me? And this is weird. And that was my first reaction. And so I went to his profile and I'm looking through it and trying to figure out, like, is this some kind of kooky guy? And like, what's he want to do with my lyrics? Does he want to steal them? Like, all kinds of weird thoughts were going through my head about this, right? So I gave it some time and I thought about it. And I thought, what the hell? What do I have to lose? If this guy's a crackpot, whatever, like, I know I have rights to my lyrics. I have proof on my computer when I created them, whatever. I mean, honestly, who's going to steal my lyrics anyways, right? So I wrote him back. I'm like, sure, yeah, go ahead. Whatever makes you happy. So I think it was maybe an hour later. He's like, hey, give me your email. I've got something for you to listen to. And I was like, what? Are you serious? So I get the email and I open it up and here's my lyrics to music, and it was good. And I'm like, whoa, that was like the craziest thing ever. I was just like, it was so bizarre. And so we ended up writing a lot of songs together, and we worked like in this crazy way where he was in Arizona, I'm in Wisconsin, and everything was through email or MySpace. Okay. So that was our way of communicating. It was just insane. And so we've written over like 90 some songs together. And in the process of all of this, I forget how Kenny met, I'm going to forget his name too. Chris, it'll come to me. Anyways, Kenny writes me one day and he's like, hey, so there's this producer type of guy in Nashville. He wants to shop our songs around. And I'm like, get out of here. Seriously? And so he's like, no, I'm serious. Why can't I think of his name? Anyways, actually, I could probably just while I'm talking to you, I'm going to find his name because I can't think of it. Darn it. So, blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, so this guy wants to shop our songs around. So he's like, okay, we're supposed to pick like 3 to 4 songs for him to shop around. So we go through our whole catalog of music. And why can't I think of, plugger. Hold on. I'll get his name. Chris Keaton. Duh. Okay, so Chris Keaton. So we sign a contract with Chris and he starts to shop our music around. And once a month we get an update as far as who has listened to a song, like who he's put it in front of for which artist, if they kept it, if they passed, or if they, what was the other word? There was different words for what they did with it. So it was very interesting to, and it's very exciting to get that every month. And we had people like John Rich listening to our songs for Gretchen Wilson. So we never actually had like a song get recorded, but we were so close on certain, like Gretchen Wilson, we were like in the top 20, I think, for one of her albums. And then we didn't make the cut, which is just to be that was just cool. Because I'm like, who am I? I'm just like this little nobody in Nacita at the time, Wisconsin, writing with some guy I've never met in person in Sedona, Arizona. So anyhow, so this is how my story goes from here. So the reason why I bring this up is very important because Kenny was a very significant person in my life at that point. It's almost like God plucked him out and stuck him in my life because besides the confidence it brought me for writing, he taught me about something I had never, ever even heard of at all. He started talking to me about something called the laws of attraction. And he was very much a believer in this. And I'm like, what is this froofy, whatever nonsense you're talking about? So he's like, go read the book, The Secret. He gave me some other literature. Just go read it. Okay. And so I did. And it was kind of like a mind blown situation for me. I had never heard of this, but yet in learning about it, I kept thinking, I've seen this stuff show up in my life. I've seen it. For example, when I was still married, I would go by these apartments in the nearby town that were rather new, and they just looked so nice. Like they were looked like just, like somebody, I don't know, they just more like upper class, so to speak. I don't know. They just looked really nice, and I just envisioned myself someday escaping my situation and living somewhere like that. It's almost like a sign of doing well for myself. And so in the back of my mind, I always kind of had these daydreams whenever I went past those apartments, like I could live there, like I could see myself there without even knowing anything about laws of attraction. I had never heard of vision boards, none of that stuff. And so I remember like always thinking about that. And my grandma was my next door neighbor at the time, and it was getting harder for her to keep up her property. So she's like, hey, I'm going to go look at apartments. So, come with me. Well, guess where she went? So the apartment that I had been dreaming about is where she ended up moving. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to try and get in. I could maybe have a shot of getting in those apartments. If I save up and buckle down, I could maybe get in those apartments. And so I moved my grandma. And so she was living in these apartments, and she was my best friend at the time. Her and I were very close. So that was in, I want to say October of what year? October of 2006. I don't know. 2006 or 7. I can't remember now. But so we moved my grandma. And in February that year, I get a call from my grandmother. She's like, guess what? The apartment right next door to me just opened up. Get your application in. And so I applied and I got in. So now this apartment complex I had been looking at for literally a few years, I am now moving into. And so it was that reinforcement of, holy crap, like the stuff that he's teaching about is something that I kind of inadvertently did anyways. And so that was my first big aha moment about me kind of being able to create my own path. Okay. And so from there, I just started digging into personal development. I worked at the hospital locally for, let me rewind quick. So I worked at the local clinic when I was still married. And I took an at-home transcription position for another company the year that I got divorced. So I was working part-time while I was married. And then when I left, I had to get full-time because I couldn't support myself and my girls on just the part-time transcription. And so I ended up working for the hospital that January. So I had this new income, this full-time job, doing what I love, living in the apartment that I saw myself living in by some bizarre way. Kenny's talking to me about laws of attraction and how to kind of make your life what you want it to be. And it was just this incredible time for me to learn, to expand my mind about who I was, who I wanted to be, to set goals, something I really had never done. I had never really set goals for myself as far as, what do I want in a life? What do I want for myself and my girls? What does my life look like in the future? And so we developed this mantra or motto of live loud, dream big. And so we became Martinek and Star Songs. That's my maiden name, Martinek and Star Songs. And we, had our music shopped around. We won some contests with some of our songs. And it was just an incredible time of growth for me. So I'm working at the hospital. Yes, manifest your destiny. Speaking positivity is a big key. Yeah, and when I was in that prior toxic marriage, I was always like dwelling on the negativity in my life. I couldn't get out of bed. Weekends, I would lay in bed till noon. I just couldn't even bear to face my life. It was just that bad. Even my music choices at the time were very melancholy, sad, very, just very depressing. And so I almost pulled myself down further during that marriage to where I only focused on the negativity and how I was feeling like I was drowning in my thoughts in my life. And so I wasn't able to be the mom I wanted to be back then because I was so depressed. I did start on antidepressants kind of towards the end of that relationship. And of course, anytime I had like a little bit of frustration during the day, it was always kind of thrown in my face. Oh, did you forget your happy pills? So I mean, things like that. So I'm in this new place. It's 2007 roughly. I'm in this new apartment. I'm writing songs with my co-writer, and I start really digging into personal development, something that I was never a book reader at all. And so I started digging into that. And I started noticing my life changing in a lot of different ways. Well, how do I put this? So a lot of our furniture had actually gotten stolen from a contractor when I was moving out of my house that I had with my ex. So I literally, when I left him, I had nothing but the clothes on mine and my girls' backs. That was basically it. I had taken some toys and stuff, but we had no furniture. We used a box for a kitchen table. But it was like one of the best times of my life because I was free to do what I wanted. So anyhow, so saving money to buy myself a bed, like I was able eventually to get beds for my girls. So they were taken care of first. And then I bought myself a bed. I had been sleeping on a blow up mattress, for 6-7 months. And that was like a huge thing. Like I was able to do this. It was pretty cool. And so I started to grow and learn more about myself. And meanwhile, I'm working at the hospital, years go by, and I'm continuing with the personal development. I'm aspiring more about who I am and kind of digging my heels into this new person that makes goals and can make her life her own. And one day, it was 2016, I'm sorry, I'm fast forwarding to 2016. I'm listening to an Audible book by Pam Grout. And in the middle of the book, she mentions this thing called The Complaint-Free World by the author of this challenge and book. His name is Will Bowen. And so many of you have probably already heard this story, especially if you've heard me speak, but it was a huge pivoting point in my life. I stopped the Audible at that moment when she mentioned this 21-day complaint-free challenge. Because at this point in my life, I had gone through a lot. Okay, so there was different moments in my life from 2006 to 2016 that had happened. I had started dating my husband. We had gotten married in 2014. And then a lot of bad stuff happened after that. Not between my husband and I, but to people surrounding us. My niece ended up going to prison for 22 years. So that was a big, huge ordeal that affected everyone in our family. And it was like someone was constantly sitting on my chest throughout that whole thing. Like I just couldn't breathe no matter what. I'm hurting for my family. It was hard to go out in public. So it was just a very, very difficult time. And on top of that, a cousin of mine who was 2 years younger than me had passed away unexpectedly. My family has a long history of, on my dad's side, of breast cancers, and she had been diagnosed. She went through, mastectomy. She went through genetic counseling, which we found that my dad's side carries a BRCA mutation, the BRCA2 gene mutation, which means it doesn't block cancers. So you have a very high elevated risk of getting breast cancers and other cancers. So I decided I'm going to have a mammogram, my first ever mammogram that year, just to kind of like with my cousin, everything happening with her. I was scared. I'm like, I better go get my shit checked out, right? And so I go have my first mammogram. I'm fine. Like, okay, it wasn't that bad. Day later, I get a phone call. You need to come back in, and we just need to check, right? And so right away, because I work in transcription and actually coding at the time at the hospital, I know that there's a lot of like kind of false negatives or things that can show up on mammogram. So I'm trying not to panic. So I get in there and she's like, okay, we need to do another mammogram. We need to do an ultrasound. So I go through both of those things. And after my ultrasound, she says, well, I'm going to bring the radiologist in. I really want him to look at this. So now I'm kind of starting to freak out, right? I'm like, what is she seeing that she's bringing the actual radiologist in? And so I get the gown all buttoned up. I sit up and he comes in and he says, okay, well, here's what's going on. He's like, you have so many microcalcifications on both sides of your breasts that I can't count them all. He's like, I really think you should go to Madison to have a few biopsies and have this checked out. So now I'm in full panic mode. My aunt on my dad's side had passed away at age 50 from breast cancer. My cousin, her daughter, had just been diagnosed, and she hadn't passed away just yet. But so now I'm starting to freak out, right? So it was probably a week later when UW-Madison calls me, and they're like, okay, we have you set up for 5 biopsies. And I'm like, 5 biopsies? That sounds like a lot. And she goes, yeah, actually, I don't think they've ever done that many ever at one time. And I'm like, seriously? She's like, yeah, so we have you set up for this date, blah, blah, blah. So I get off the phone and I immediately start bawling because I'm thinking, if UW's never done 5 biopsies in a row on somebody, like, what the hell is wrong? What's going on? I've got, the worst case scenario of breast cancer going on. I'm probably going to die. You name it. All these thoughts went through my head. I was just a blubbering mess. And so I go to my appointment and with my husband, of course, and the radiologist comes in, the lady who's going to do the biopsy. And she's like, well, I really think, we had a meeting with all the radiologists or with our team. We feel that the risks outweigh the benefits of doing that many, biopsies at one time. It's expensive. You can have pain, whatever. So she's like, we're just going to do one today and see what happens, see what that result comes back as. So I have the biopsy, thankfully comes back benign, but then she calls and says, well, I would really suggest you do genetic counseling and see if you carry this BRCA mutation that your cousin has. I'm like, okay. So I get that appointment set up. I go in for the counseling. They do the test. And it's like, I forget how long it was. It's like 2 weeks you have to wait. So I get the phone call, and of course, I carry the BRCA2 gene mutation. So now I'm a high risk for breast cancer. I've got all of these microcalcifications through both breasts, and I'm freaking out. So what do you do? So they explain my options of, going every 6 months to have a mammogram or MRI and do kind of that watchful waiting thing, or I can go through and have a prophylactic mastectomy. So I dig into all the research. I start, looking at all my options. I spend a lot of time and thought on this. I'm talking with my family, my sister in particular, because she was going through the same thing as I was with genetic testing. And so I opted for a mastectomy with something called deep flap reconstruction. So what that is it's reconstruction without using implants, because in reading the research, it just wasn't right for me. I didn't feel that that's the way I wanted to go. And so what they did was they take the fat from basically your abdomen and they cut it out and make new breasts, and they can reconnect all the different, arteries and nerves and all that. So it's your own tissue. So that was what I chose. And it was a 12-hour surgery because there were some complications, but in the long run, everything turned out just fine. It was a very hard recovery. So I go through doing really well. And then 2015 hits. My niece's stuff is going on. I've got, this genetic stuff going on. I go through this, crazy surgery that takes me months to recover from. And I'm trying to kind of climb out of this, this hole of negativity that I feel buried in at this point. And so that's why when I heard about this complaint-free movement, all I could think was, I am trying to get out from underneath all this heavy negativity I'm feeling. And what's more negative that we do than complain? And so this is clicking in my mind as I'm thinking about this complaint-free movement thing that I'm reading about. And so I go to Facebook and I look up this Will Bowen guy, who's the author and creator of this complaint-free world thing, and call it, I don't even know if you want to call it being in the right place at the right time, if it was fate stepping in. But that very day, he wrote, hey, I'm looking for 10 people who I can train to speak on this topic, to basically give my presentation and travel around and, become a motivational speaker like me. And now, mind you, I had worked between the clinic and the hospital. It was not quite 20 years at that point. And I just felt something resonate within me that I'm like, I want to do this. I don't know why. I'm not a speaker. Like, I'm terrified of public speaking. Like, I get jumble mouthed whenever I'm like put on the spot. But for whatever reason, I sent off the email like, I really want to do this. And so, of course, his daughter Leah interviews me a few weeks later. And then a few weeks after that, I get chosen. And so that's how that ball starts getting rolling. I go through all this training with Will Bowen himself and 9 other trainers. And they call us their space monkeys because we're the first ones they train and kind of send out on our own. And I find something fascinating about myself, that I love empowering people. So this is where this moment happens, where I feel like I can help somebody make a real change in their lives. I look back on my life and I think about the times when I stepped out of my own way and quit complaining and dwelling on the negativity, that's when my life changed. Even going back as far as, 6-8 months before I actually left that toxic relationship. So bear with me, okay? Because this is not the only reason why I was able to escape that situation, but this is a huge point in my mindset. Now, remember, I said when I was in that toxic marriage, I was very boohoo, poor me. My mom, my sister, people close with me knew what I was going through, right? And so in complaining about my situation all the time, it was like this cycle of just, I go visit my grandma and he's calling and I just couldn't get any like me time ever. It just didn't happen. And I remember a moment in time when I was complaining and I would see people look at me like, for heaven's sake, just freaking leave him already. Like they love me, but they were sick of hearing me complain about my situation and not doing anything about it. Like you could see that on people's faces. Okay. So I remember thinking to myself, that's it. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm just, I'm going to suck it up. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. No matter how miserable I feel right now, I am not talking about it. And that's what I did. So after I go through all this training with Will Bowen, I have this aha moment. I have this moment when I go back to 2006 and I remember something my sister had said to me. So after I had left my ex-husband, it was a few months, and my sister said to me, I'm shocked that when you left him, I'm going to be honest, I was surprised. And I said, well, why? I said, you knew what it was like. She's like, yeah, but you hadn't talked about or complained about anything for a long time. I thought everything was getting better. And I had that, again, an aha moment, like, holy crap. Like, are those things connected? Like, because I quit complaining and talking about it, like, did that create like a series of events for my mindset to shift and basically become more positive, where I wasn't drowning in that negativity to the point where I was able to open my eyes up and see kind of the route to leaving? Because it really was this, like, an opening of information. Like, when you're in a relationship like that, there's a lot of questions about, well, how can I support myself and my kids? I was only working part-time. Where would I even go? I don't have any money saved up. I don't have anything or any way to leave. And interestingly, the day that I decided to leave, I'm like, okay, what are my options? Like, in my mind, like, what are my options? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. My mom was selling, she had a mobile home because she moved down with my dad in Lake Geneva. She had been selling this mobile home, right? It had been on the market for, I think, maybe a year at that point. I'm like, why don't I go there? It was like this, like, hello, wake up, you dum-dum. And so I called my mom. I'm like, this is it. I'm leaving. Can I go move in with the girls and move into your mobile home? She's like, well, absolutely. Get your butt out there. Do what you have to do. And the thing is it was always there. I just didn't see it. And so I feel like that led up to this mindset shift when I quit talking about my situation. And it's a scary situation. It's very scary to leave that type of situation, but it was the best decision I ever made. And then everything just kind of snowballed in a good way after that. So then I start doing this motivational speaking. I get very passionate about complaint-free world, and other things start happening too. I got into just things like multi-level marketing, and while some of the things didn't work out, they all very much stress personal development. And so I have always continued this ride with personal development and constantly listening, reading, doing as much to help my own personal growth as I can. And in 2017, that August, we lost my dad. That was another small awakening I shouldn't say small, it was kind of a big awakening for me, where I was starting my speaking business. It was starting to pick up some momentum, where I was actually starting to get paid to speak. And I was at a point in my job at the hospital doing coding where I didn't really like my job anymore. Like, I loved my boss. She was fantastic, but the job itself, because I had transitioned from coding or from transcription to coding, and coding is a whole different world. It's like all different. It's just different. And I didn't like it. And I'm in this place where I'm starting to hate going to work every day. And I really want to pick up my speaking, but I don't know how to balance the two to the point where I can be successful in one while maintaining the other to pay my bills. And then my dad passes away. And I just thought, what the hell am I doing? I am wasting my time being miserable. What for? And so I had this very serious conversation with my husband, like, okay, I want to quit my job. I've been working for the clinic and hospital now for 20 years. I've never been miserable in my job, and I'm miserable in my job right now. I want to quit. He's like, okay, well, how do we make this work? And so I said, okay, I'm going to get a game plan together about getting speaking opportunities. I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm going to do this. I'm going to visualize this happening. I'm going to see this being successful. And in the meantime, and people would have, of course, people would tell me this was the dumbest thing we ever did, but I pulled my 401k when I quit. Because I was so, you don't want to lose your house in the process. And so I pulled my 401k so that we could at least maintain while I was trying to get my speaking business, off the ground. And so that's what I did. And I really hit the ground running. I started to do more speaking. I was able to raise my pricing, because that's also a mindset shift. So if you're out there and you're an aspiring speaker, you have to do so many like free presentations to hone your craft, get your name out there, get reviews and testimonials. And then you start charging. And it's a weird feeling because it's like, what is what I'm saying worth? And that's a really hard thing to come to grips with. Like, what am I providing for people? What benefit am I providing for people by coming and speaking? And as you do more, you start to realize your worth, and you start to charge more for your worth of what you're bringing people. And it wasn't easy. We had some pretty dark times as far as not sure how I'm going to make the mortgage. And we had those moments once the 401k ran out. And so it wasn't just a breeze. I didn't just all of a sudden start speaking and everything was hunky-dory. We went through some hard times. And I addressed this. I just got recently interviewed on a podcast for She's Invincible with Krista Resnick. She has an amazing podcast called She's Invincible. So when that comes out, I'll make sure I share the link, and I share those tough times. She goes through the good, the bad, the ugly, and I shared all of that. So I want to get to, in the last 5 minutes here, because I don't want to go over my time. I want to talk about the success that I have found through this huge kind of transformation I've gone through since 2006 till today. Okay, so in becoming a speaker, I end up joining Polka Dot Powerhouse. If you don't know what that is, that's a women's connection company. And I meet all these amazing female entrepreneurs, business owners, women who are in leadership roles. And it's so inspiring and encouraging. That also catapults me into thinking there's more than just I can do more than just speak for Complaint Free World. You know, I can share my story. Like, how can I share my story to empower people? And that's how I came up with Warrior Unchained. So I have this event coming up August 29th. We had the first year last year in May, and I developed this. I thought, I want to hold a conference for women where we come together. I bring in other amazing female speakers to tell their stories. Okay, so I wanted to make a platform for other women as well, because in the speaking world, it is kind of male dominated, not always, but there is kind of a higher prevalence of male speakers. And so I wanted to give a platform for other female speakers to tell their stories. And so I reached out into my network, and I put out applications for speakers. And I have this huge goal for Warrior Unchained to be this life-changing event. And so I put this event together, not having any experience whatsoever at all. And I touch on that in the podcast I was interviewed, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with it, but the event was life-changing in good and bad ways. So the majority of it was good, especially for all the people who came to it. So that was a huge, everything's huge and life-changing, I know, but it really was. And so this is something that I have decided to keep going. And now this year, the event was supposed to be May 1st and 2nd, but what happened was COVID, of course. Oh, so everything has changed. And so I had to cancel the event, but in my heart, I still wanted to do it, but I didn't want to just do it virtual. If you've ever gone to a conference, an empowerment sort of conference, there is something about the energy in the room. Being around people who are growing and learning the same time you are, it's a palpable energy. And I don't want people to miss out on that. So I thought, how can I do this where people can have a choice? Because I know with COVID and social distancing and masks and everything else, I want to bring people together, but safely. So I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to limit the attendance to 25 people. And that includes speakers even, by the way. So we have 25 people. We have this big, huge pole barn on my property. We're going to decorate it like an event, place, venue. And we'll be able to kind of sit apart from one another. So, face, you can wear a mask. You don't have to, whatever you want to do. If you want to wear a mask, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Or people could join virtually. So I hired a tech team to come, and they'll be here on the premises that day. And we're going to have it so you can join as a VIP in person for $37. And you get to be there from 3 o'clock until at least 8:30 or 9:30, where you hear 6 speakers, you get dinner served. We have a mastermind afterwards where we'll come together and really kind of, have this group discussion about things and kind of how to help you problem solve, okay, things that you're going through personally. And then we've got medium Diane Doyle who's joining us, who's going to do a few readings, like mini gallery readings that night. So it's going to be a crazy, awesome event. But then I thought, okay, people who can't join in person or who aren't able to be here either by distance or because of COVID, they're not comfortable. So I have this tech team who's going to stream the event live. So people can buy a virtual ticket for only $10 and see all 6 incredible speakers and feel like you're here with us. So this event, I cannot wait, because I think this is going to be the way we'll do it in the future. Because I really feel like this gets both sides of the aspect. People who are local and who want to be here in person. And like I said, we'll try and social distance the best we can. Be mindful of one another. We'll wash our hands, all of that good stuff. And what I want to tell you, okay, I don't want to go too far over, but I have more to tell you. So that's Warrior Unchained. It's going to be a combination of personal and professional development. And you can find more information I'll put the website up here real quick, at Warrior Unchained Live. Okay, there's the website. And if you want to learn more about me, it's at wendybabcock.com. So if you want to go out and get your ticket, we only actually have 11 more tickets for Warrior Unchained Live for the VIP tickets. So if you're local or you want to come this direction, I'm in New Lisbon, Wisconsin. Make sure you get your tickets soon, because I think as we are promoting it more, we're going to sell tickets pretty quickly because they're only $37, and that includes your catered dinner. And also, like I said, with Diane Doyle being here, she has a huge following. So I think people are going to come mostly for that even. That's going on. Also, I have a TEDx coming up. So the speaking avenue has also led me to be chosen to do a TEDx talk, which will be in Fond du Lac this August. And that also you can buy tickets for if you go to TEDxFondDuLac.com. You can buy tickets. They're $20 per household. So you can have like a TEDx party at your house, and you can watch it virtually. And that's on August 15th. What else do I want to tell you? Thank you for all the hearts, everybody. If anyone has questions, I know I've just been kind of like just dropping everything, but Warrior Unchained is kind of my baby, so to speak. Like, I have all of my heart is in this event. This is something I have created on my own, and I've had so many great collaborators, and I have amazing speakers this year. We'll be talking about social media marketing. So if you're a woman who has like a side gig, or you're an entrepreneur and you want an expert to talk to, we've got an expert coming for that. I have a virtual speaker from Rhode Island, Nicole. She'll be talking about the 7 pillars of success, helping you find success in different avenues to do that, and help you with the mindset and all that. So she's amazing. I've got my daughter will be speaking for the first time ever. She's a sexual assault survivor, and she'll be talking about her story and how she found her healing and continues to heal. So I think that's huge. And I think a lot of women will resonate with that, depending on, we all have stories, domestic abuse, sexual assault, or we know somebody. And so her story is it's a very emotional story, and she just comes so far. I'm so proud of her. So she'll be taking the stage right here at Warrior Unchained. I've got Jessica Tierney. She's I always forget what state she's in, but she'll be another virtual speaker talking about self-defense. So I'm not sure if she's going to go more on the side of, what to look out for, or if she'll be showing you a demonstration of self-defense. She's still kind of working on her presentation. I've got Susie Simonson from Minnesota joining us also virtually, and she'll be talking about why who you say you are matters and how to borrow her belief. So she has a program called Borrow My Belief. Susie's amazing. She's very, very passionate about what she does. She's a stroke survivor. So I'm very, very excited about all the speakers that I've got this year. And of course, I'll be sharing my story with both Warrior Unchained and as far as the Kindness Bucket Brigade. I'll be talking about both of those subjects and sharing my journey some more. Feel like I got through a lot of information in only 48 minutes. So if you want to find out more about Warrior Unchained Live, again, that's here in New Lisbon. We have a very large pole building. I opted out of doing the tent because I'm just worried about if we do have bad weather or it's really hot. I want to be in somewhere where we're protected by like wind, rain, you have it. So we're going to have it in the pole barn. We're going to decorate it like a huge event venue place. We have a stage. I'm actually building the stage myself. I know, right? I'll be building the stage myself, and I can't wait to see this year's event. I'm very excited about it. We've got, like I said, great speakers. Tickets are selling. If you can't be here in person, obviously buy a ticket online for the virtual. You'll feel like you're right here with us. They're only $10. So it's like the price of one book, and you'll get 6 speakers for that price. And you'll be with us from 3 p.m. until 6:30. So about 3.5 hours, you'll get to see all the speakers and feel like you're here with us. So I think that's a pretty good price. So that's kind of all I have for you guys today. I hope you've enjoyed this. It was a little weird trying to think of how much my story am I going to share today, to kind of interview myself. But I wanted to show you the challenges that I've been through along the way, and where I had the mindset shifts and where I'm at today. I'm like 100% different person today than I was back in 2005, 2006. It's been a crazy, crazy roller coaster journey, but I've honestly never been happier. Of course, I've had challenges this year with losing my mom. That was like the biggest loss I think I've ever faced in my lifetime. Um, so yeah, so it's been an incredible journey, but yet I'm always looking out for the positives. I'm always trying to see the good that comes out of everything. I know my mom is still guiding me, even from heaven. I can feel her around, and I know when things line up. I know that she's got her hand in it. So I'm always trying to look out for the positives and see the bright side of life, even when it seems really dark. So I'm going to leave you with that, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic day. Find your positives, stop complaining, and buy your tickets to Warrior Unchained live. I promise you won't regret it. See you next week, everybody. Bye.